Hello everyone, Marco Chiappetta for Hot Hardware here with a giant pile of hardware on my desk. Now, why is it there, you ask? Well, AMD challenged us to build a killer Star Wars Battlefront gaming PC featuring some of their mainstream hardware. And since I love to build PCs, it's one of my favorite things to do, I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. Here's a shot of the core components AMD suggested for the build. There's an FX 8370 processor in that small white box sitting in front of an MSI 990 FXA gaming motherboard. Now that motherboard's built around the 990FX chipset. It features USB 3.1, killer E2200 networking, and a bunch of gaming features. It looks great too. Gonna pull it out of the box in just a minute. Now next to it is a Radeon R9 380X 4GB graphics card. That particular card, when I reviewed it, I thought it was one of the best values for 1080p gaming. We have a full review up on the site if you want to check it out. There's an AMD SSD there just for good measure. I'm going to throw that in the rig. And all of that is sitting on top of this AOC 24-inch monitor. This is the AOC G2460PF, and why this monitor? Because it supports AMD's FreeSync technology with a 144 Hz refresh rate. It has that same nice black and red color scheme too. Now I'm going to pull all of this stuff out of the box in just a minute, but I have a bunch of Corsair components I want to show you too. Now you can't build a rig with a motherboard, processor, and graphics card alone, so I reached out to Corsair to see if they wanted to participate. And oh man, they really came through. I have some awesome stuff here. There's an RM850X modular power supply at the bottom of the stack there, an H80i GT cooling solution that we're going to slap onto that processor, and all the way on top is a Corsair Dominator Platinum 8GB memory kit. Now all of that's going to get crammed into a Graphite Series 760T white full tower case, and this thing sort of looks like a stormtrooper. I'm psyched to get it all out of the box and get going on this. And you can't game without awesome audio and a great input device, so to complement the beautiful case, Corsair also sent an M65 RGB gaming mouse and a Void RGB USB headset. Also in beautiful white, match the case really nice. Alright, let me get this stuff open and get started here. Before I start assembling things, I figured I'd give you a look at some of the core components. This is the Sapphire Radeon R9 380X graphics card. Now, as I've mentioned, we have a full review up on the site if you want to check out the specifics. This guy's got 4 gigs of RAM. It's built around AMD's Tonga GPU, and if I flip it around here, you'll see you have a pair of DVI outputs, an HDMI output, and a full-size DisplayPort output. Now, it's that DisplayPort output that's going to connect to that AOC FreeSync monitor. I've gone ahead and installed the processor and memory into the MSI 990 FXA gaming motherboard. Right here is the AMD FX 8370. That's an 8-core chip with a base clock of 4 GHz and a max turbo frequency of 4.3 GHz. And here is the dual-channel Corsair Dominator Platinum memory kit. That's a DDR3 kit with a max frequency of 2.8 GHz. Nice fast kit. And as you can see, the MSI motherboard has a nice black and red color scheme, big heat sinks on the VRM and the chipset. I'm going to give you a shot of all the I/O in just a second. Here's what the MSI motherboard is rocking in terms of connectivity. There's a PS2 port here on top of a couple of USB ports, an optical audio output, a few more USB 2 ports. These two guys here are the USB 3.1 ports. Couple of more USB 2 ports underneath the killer NIC connector right there, and here are the rest of the audio connectors. Before I do anything with it, I have to show you this Corsair Graphite Series 760T case in all of its pristine glory. As you can see, this is a white model with a windowed side panel. It has a nice aggressive look without being gaudy. I absolutely love this case. I think it looks great. I'm going to give you a closer shot of the connectors and buttons at the top in just a sec. Right up front at the top of the Corsair 760T, you have a pair of audio connectors. This is a headphone jack, that's a mic jack. There's a fan controller switch, a pair of USB 2 ports, a pair of USB 3 ports, and your power and reset switches. I should also point out this plate at the top here is removable. If you're not going to be mounting fans or a radiator at the top, you can go ahead and leave this cover on, but if you pull it off, the grates are exposed for better airflow. Alrighty, so I'm working on my own in tight quarters, so there's not going to be any cool montage of me completing the build. I will stop along the way to show you my progress though. So what I have here is the motherboard mounted inside the Corsair case, graphics card is installed, processor and memory is installed. I'm going to install the cooler next and then probably the drive. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, we're making some excellent progress here. I have the Corsair H80i GT mounted right up here. Dual fan configuration, blowing inward. I had to remove the stock AMD mounting brackets from the motherboard and use the included hardware from Corsair. I threw an optical drive up here for good measure. The SATA cable is already connected. I'm not sure if you can see it very well. Under here is an AMD SSD mounted. Again, just the data cable connected. And if I pan down a little bit, you'll see there's a few preliminary cables run, but nothing crazy just yet. I'm going to do the PSU now. Okay, it's time for a quick progress update. I have mounted the RM850X power supply at the bottom of the case. I'm not sure if this cage is going to have to come out to connect the cables. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I have installed the graphics card power cables. Haven't tied anything down yet. The motherboard power is connected, and I made my first screw up. I actually had to remove the radiator assembly to connect the 8-pin power connector on the back side of the motherboard, but it wasn't a big deal. I pulled out a few screws, plugged in the cable, routed it through the back, and just mounted the radiator again. Here's a quick shot of the back side of the motherboard tray. I have not secured any cables properly except for a couple of fan cables and the front panel cables. All the power cables and data cables are just dangling here. So I'm going to route everything as neatly as I can, secure everything down, and I'll show you the final product in just a few minutes before I power it up. And here's a shot of the back side of the motherboard tray. As you can see, it is not immaculate, but it is pretty darn clean. There is plenty of space and plenty of tie downs to kind of secure everything and make sure nothing's going to move around when the system is fully built. I am really pleased with how that looks too. I am going to slap this cover on the back side and power it up, and hopefully everything turns on as it should. Stay tuned. So power cord is connected. I'm going to hit the power button and keep my fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. This is the first time I'm turning it on. And we have juice. I don't have a monitor connected, so I'm not sure everything is booting properly. But wow, as you can see, or as you can hear, system is pretty quiet. I can hardly hear the fan spinning at all. Everything is lighting up as it should. I'm going to go ahead and shut the lights off and back up and give you more of a bird's eye view. Here's what our AMD-powered Star Wars Battlefront PC looks like in the dark. As you can see, the front-mounted fans are lighted on this case. The power button is a nice big rectangle light up at the top. It's probably tough to see in the dark here, but the Corsair logo on the H80i cooler is lit. There's another little light along the side, and the DIMMs are lighted as well. There's a couple of LEDs at the edge of the DIMMs too. All right, let me get the lights turned on, get Windows installed, get the game installed, and let's see how this puppy does. The really boring stuff is happening right now. At least I can report the system is working perfectly. Windows 10 is installing right now. When this is done, I'm going to update some drivers, get Origin installed, get the game installed, and then I'll show you some of the fun stuff, I promise. While updates are installing, I thought I'd show you one more quick, really cool thing. That is the Corsair M65 RGB on the left. I have it hanging in front of the monitor, and on the right is the Void RGB headset. Check out how the lights pulsate on the side. It's a really cool setup. Now with the software installed, you can of course customize it. The RGB is customizable to basically any color that you'd want, but I just wanted to show you those up and running while the system is still getting ready. While Star Wars Battlefront is downloading, I'm just going to show you a couple of quick little things while I'm waiting. So here are the display adapter properties. As you can see, I have the desktop refresh rate set to 144 Hertz. And in the Radeon settings menu, AMD FreeSync has been turned on. So it appears everything's working, though I haven't played any games just yet. Alright, I've got Windows 10 fully installed and updated, all of my drivers installed, a couple of system tweaks done, and Star Wars Battlefront is fully installed. I'm going to go ahead and launch the game. Here we go. I've gone ahead and installed Fraps as well so we can monitor frame rates. So according to AMD, a system of this type should be able to run the game at ultra settings at 60 frames per second, and we're about to find out. Here we go. All right, so looking at the menus here, we've been bouncing between 95 and 200 frames per second. Don't really look at that. It's in-game frame rates that matter. So let's go to some missions here. We will do a quick solo battle on Hoth. Probably pronounced that wrong, whatever. Alright, level's loading. Let's see how the system does. We will be Rebel Alliance, of course. Let's start.
Prove your mettle by taking on as many Imperials as possible.
Alright, hopefully it is coming across on the video. We are actually rocking at 67 frames per second right here, but there's not much going on. Let's go find some baddies and do some shooting. So we are right in that sweet spot for FreeSync. And yeah, I mean, this feels really good to me. It won't have come across on the video, but there is absolutely no tearing. There are no stutters. There's virtually no input lag. Feels really good. Let's go find someone else to kill here. Gotta love this Corsair mouse. I don't have the headset plugged in because I wanted you guys to hear some of the sounds, but this M65 is really smooth. Works well with the with this game. I see you. So frame rates have dropped into the high 40s. We're at 47 right here when there's a little action on the screen. Back up into the 50s. But I'm going to go ahead and do a few more tests on a couple different levels, but I don't know. I think the system puts up some nice numbers here. We're back up in the 60s. Everything is perfectly smooth. Looks great. I think you'd agree. I'm going to go ahead and shut the video down for a second. Alright, I think that's just about going to do it for our Star Wars Battlefront gaming PC build. I need to thank AMD for inspiring this project and thank Corsair for the very cool parts. That Void headset and M65 mouse kick ass, and I adored working in the 760T chassis. That is an excellent, excellent enthusiast case. The AOC FreeSync monitor, MSI motherboard, Sapphire 380X, and 8370 CPU lived up to the hype. 60 frames per second gaming in Star Wars Battlefront at 1080p with all settings maxed. Great experience if you ask me, and I don't know about you, stepping back looking at this rig, that is one gorgeous system. So once again, if you liked what you've seen, definitely subscribe and check out HotHardware.com for our in-depth news and reviews. Once again, this is Marco Chiappetta for Hot Hardware. Thanks for stopping by and hope to see you soon.